Well, hello there and welcome to another episode of Just a Few with me, Patrick Antoine, your Bible teacher and host. Thank you for this opportunity for me to respond biblically to questions from people just like you. If you have a question and you'd like for me to attempt an answer to that question, please feel free to submit the question via email. The email address is on the screen, and I'll try to provide you with a response as soon as I can. Today's question isn't so much a biblical question, a Bible-based question. It has to do with the Bible, but it's not one where I'm going to have to share on what a passage means or so. It obviously comes from someone who studies the scriptures and has come across some certain terms that would like some clarification on what those terms really mean. So let's look at the question. The question is, what is meant by pre-exile and post-exile books, meaning books in the Bible? And so, good observation, good question. You would not find those terms in the Bible itself, but these are terms that are used to reference things in the Bible, in the Old Testament in particular. So let me provide you with a response to that. The first thing we need to clarify, not only for your benefit as a questioner, but for anyone looking at this video, is what was the exile? What do we mean by the exile? When you read a verse like Matthew 1:17, Matthew refers to a particular major event in Jewish history he calls it the captivity. And so let me jot down a few things here to help you to understand what, first of all, the exile referred to. So it referred to the deportation and scattering of the Jews from their ancestral homeland by foreign powers. And so that's why Matthew calls it the captivity. The Jews were taken captive by foreign powers from their homeland. So this whole exile or captivity, you need to know, was in fulfillment of the covenant God made with the nation regarding occupying and enjoying the promised land as part of the Mosaic Covenant. It's actually viewed by some people as a separate covenant called the Palestinian Covenant by Bible scholars, and has to do with staying in the land, not possessing it or owning it, but remaining in it or enjoying it. So the Jews, God said, would be driven from the land whenever they persisted in sin and rebellion against him. And I'm not going to read that passage. It's found in Deuteronomy 28 as well as Leviticus chapter 26. In Leviticus, it's from verse 27 to 35, for instance, where God kept telling them, if you persist in sin, I'm going to drive you out of the land, and the land is going to enjoy its rest from sin and enjoy its Sabbaths, as they would not keep the 7-day Sabbaths and so on. Now, there were two exiles of the Jewish people. After King Solomon, the son of David, died, the nation came split, divided into two kingdoms. The northern kingdoms had 10 tribes, and the southern kingdoms had 2 tribes. The northern kingdom kept the name Israel, and the southern kingdom assumed the name of the dominant tribe there, Judah, and Jerusalem was the capital. The temple was in Jerusalem. The northern tribes were taken into exile around the year 721 BC. The Assyrians were the ones who led them into captivity or exiled those tribes. We learn about that in 2 Kings chapter 17. Again, you could check the entire chapter out. The second exile, which is the one referred to most times by Bible scholars, is the exile of the Jews from the southern kingdom. And that took place over a period of about 20 years at the hands of the Babylonians. There were 3 deportations, which eventually ended with the city being sacked or destroyed. Those deportations took place in 606 BC, 596 or 97 BC, and then finally in 586 BC, the Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar came and destroyed the temple, the city, and they took a third wave of Jews out of the city. Those are the 3 exiles that constitute the Babylonian exile. And we read about that in 2 Kings chapter 24. So now to the question itself, what is pre-exile? It refers to, the question is asking pre-exile books, post-exile books. Books which relate to events which took place before that Babylonian exile are referred to as pre-exile books, and the writers are called pre-exile writers. Books which refer to incidents which took place after the exile and after the return and so on from captivity are called post-exile books. And let me clarify to you which books are which. Most of the books in the Old Testament are pre-exile books. When you look from Genesis with the law of Moses, Genesis to Deuteronomy, then the historical books from Joshua to Esther, most of them are pre-exile. The last three in that section, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther, are post-exile historical books. Those are three post-exile books: Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. You read about they going back to their homeland, rebuilding the wall and facing opposition, and so those are after the exile. And in the books of the prophets, you'll see there are three also post-exile prophetic books: Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, the last three in the prophetic section. Those relate to events that took place after the exile, the Babylonian exile. So those are the differences in terms of what are pre-exile and post-exile books. And that is something to keep in mind. 586 BC is a significant event in biblical chronology. That's when the Jews were finally and formally, you could say, removed from their homeland, driven out, and were living in exile and captivity among the Gentiles. And that's why it's such a significant event. And that's where you get the term pre-exile and post-exile for you students of the Bible as you read the scriptures. My name is Patrick Antwine. Thank you for the question. Trust that my explanation helped to clarify to you what those terms mean. So until the next time, grace and peace be